Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever time of the day it is that you are joining us. This is the Tulsa World Scene podcast with the Tulsa World Scene pod people. Well, maybe I shouldn't call us. Anyway, welcome to our weekly discussion of things that will appear soon in the Tulsa World, available at fine news agents everywhere and online at tulsaworld.com. As everybody knows all too well, it is very, very hot. And one of the things that happens when things get very, very hot is people start thinking about lawns and plants and that sort of thing. And I believe, Grace, you have a potential source for a lot of plant knowledge for this time of year.
Yes, definitely. So I've got a story coming up this Saturday for World of Homes about a women and family-owned plant shop that opened up on Brookside next to Three Tequilas called Wildflower Market. And it's run by a woman named Erin Danielle alongside her younger daughter and her mother. And it's really cool. They source a lot of the plants from like local wholesalers, but they also grow a lot of the plants themselves in their backyard greenhouse. Erin told me with that when the shop first opened, she brought 187 of her own plants from her house to sell in the shop. So it's just like a very like lush green environment when you go in there. It's super beautiful. But she came up with the name Wildflower Market because Erin is just a diehard Tom Petty fan. So she borrowed the name from his 1994 album called Wildflowers. And the market part of the name comes from really what Erin wants her customers to get out of the experience of coming there. It's much more than just like a plant shop. They have everything from artisanal goods like jewelry and art from local vendors. And they also host workshops every month with everything from like yoga and Tai Chi to cross stitching and macrame and potting classes and a lot more. So, and soon Erin said that they want to start having like cocktails and plant-based food from local restaurants. So it's a lot more than just your average plant shop. It's really like a full immersive experience that's run by a family, which is really cool. So if you want to hear more about what they're doing there, that story will come out this Saturday. So be sure to check it out.
Besides the temperature, the way that I know that it's hot is I've been to 4 stores looking for a lawn sprinkler, and they're all sold out, every one. And when I step in my yard, it sounds like you're crunching Fritos, or Avery Shriver's eating Doritos in one of those commercials from 40 years ago. I just wanted to mention Avery Shriver today in our Zoom call. No sprinklers for me.
When the house I live in has a sprinkler system that doesn't work, and so I've got. I know it's bad when cardinals line up on the bench that's up against my back window, and they all have their beaks open and they're looking at me like, anytime now, So I actually tried to put out bowls of water, and I went out and filled them up and checked a couple of minutes later, and it was like they practically evaporated completely. So I'm not quite sure if they drank it all in an hour or if it just evaporated in an hour. But what kind of do they have? Are they primarily decorative plants? Do they offer fruits and vegetables and that sort of a thing, or what sort of?
It's mostly house plants, like pothos and monsteras and hanging plants, but they also have a lot of succulents and stuff too. I actually bought one. I can show you. I forgot that I have this right here. But when I was there, they had this little succulent in a teacup, and it came with a tiny little plate. So I was like, this is coming home with me. I have to have it. So lots of cute, like kind of artsy stuff like this. So and Mike Simons took some really cool pictures of what they have in the store, so people can check that out when the article comes out.
Well, when you're talking about some of the things they were wanting to add, I know that Jimmie's been looking for a new spot to do yoga, but I will warn you now. I speak from personal experience. don't drink, and macrame. I'm I'm just saying it's not pretty.
Thank you for the warning.
Just letting you know. Well, uh, it's kind of sobering to know that movies that came out when uh, you know, you measured your age, below 20, are celebrating, golden anniversaries. One of which, or nearly golden, one of which I believe is Fast Times at Ridgemont High, that you have some information on, Mr. Tramel.
Yeah, believe it or not, Fast Times at Ridgemont High is 40 this year. It was released August 13th, 1982. Circle Cinema is going to celebrate the 40th anniversary by showing it next week, Thursday, July 28th. And that was reason enough for me to, kind of go on a deep dive and see what I could find out that people may find interesting about Fast Times at Ridgemont High beyond just watching the movie. So I've been, for research, I had to watch the movie again, I mean, just work. So on Friday's paper, we'll have kind of a 10 things to know about Fast Times. Maybe you know this stuff, maybe you don't. But the neatest thing is the way it started. And Cameron Crowe, a great storyteller in his early 20s, goes undercover at a San Diego high school and just as a fly on the wall, observes people and writes a book, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's really hard to find. Good luck paying less than $200 for it on eBay, because it's not been reprinted. But that became the source material for a movie that stands the test of time.
Just curious, did either of you ever order a pizza to be delivered to your classroom?
Like Jeff Spicoli.
Exactly.
In the book, by the way, it was Rat that ordered food to the classroom. But for the movie, it made more sense for Spicoli to order food for the classroom. But no, I never had that much guts. I did get some M&Ms taken away from me in class once, though. That was the closest thing. Grace, maybe you're far worse behaved and ordered a pizza. I don't know.
I never did that. Not bold enough.
I did. The one time I skipped out of school was to go eat pizza, but we didn't order it for the classroom. So, or that's what we ended up doing. But anyway, we were young and foolish. Now we're just old and foolish. So, well, speaking of anniversaries, this year is the 100th anniversary of the publication of Ulysses by James Joyce, which is famously considered the greatest novel in the English language that most people have read, that probably no more than 20 pages of. But it is a milestone of literature, and while you might not associate James Joyce and Tulsa, the University of Tulsa has been a center of scholarship on James Joyce from the 1960s, when they founded the James Joyce Quarterly. It was founded by Professor Thomas Staley. And the TU Library Special Collections has a exhibit up on the 100th, excuse me, on the 100th anniversary of Ulysses, that has some fascinating things, including they recently obtained, might be seem a little esoteric and maybe a little macabre, but a bronze statue made from James Joyce's death mask, that they made after he died in 1941. So that's there, with a blue and white tie that he wore, which matched the color of, I know way too much about this stuff, but the people at the library know a whole lot more. But anyway, it's an interesting little exhibit. It's in the special collections area of the McFarland Library, which is on the 5th floor there. And it runs through September. So there's for those who want to see it, it's there to be seen. Speaking of being seen, Reservation Dogs' second season is coming up soon, or has it started yet?
It's coming up in early August. In fact, there's a red carpet premiere a week from Friday at River Spirit Casino with a lot of the stars, walking the red carpet there. I need to go ahead and knock that out and get that in on the web ASAP. But Dallas Goldtooth plays the spirit, William Knifeman, who mentors young Bear Underhill in Reservation Dogs. He joined the writer's room this season for season 2, in addition to playing the spirit, who will return in season 2. And so I had a phone interview with Dallas Goldtooth. He has a long association with Sterling Harjo in a sketch comedy group called the 1491, so named because they're an indigenous group. And 1491 obviously was the year before Columbus showed up and things changed. But all 5 members of the 1491s, the sketch comedy group, are now part of Reservation Dogs. So one thing led to another, and we've got some of that history in Sunday's paper.
Do I remember correctly that the character that he plays grew out of the 1491 sketch? Do I remember that correctly, or am I making that up?
I did ask him that, and I put it in a way of like sometimes when you're in the Groundlings and you get chosen to be on Saturday Night Live, you might take a character from the Groundlings and go to SNL, and that becomes a recurring character. And he said, yes, there are elements of the spirit, William Knifeman, who appeared in 1491s, and now you see those elements also in Reservation Dogs. He said there are many Easter eggs for fans of the 1491s who are now watching Reservation Dogs.
Okay.
What our man Wes Studi, locally Oklahoma actor, also returns for season 2, which is great.
Okay, and he's got another movie that's either come out or is just out. That's kind of a romance. And the title escapes me. I can't remember now, but that's another thing to look for Wes Studi. Let me ask you a question. If you were going to name a unique and iconic Oklahoma food, what would you answer?
Gracious thinking.
And
Gracious thinking.
Hopefully they'll put the Jeopardy theme on.
In the meanwhile, I will say wild onions,
Okay.
which is associated with native culture. But wild onions and scrambled eggs is, to me, that's a very Oklahoma thing.
Well, the dish I have in mind does involve onions.
Interesting. I don't know. I immediately went to like chicken fried steak. I feel
Okay.
like that's kind of Oklahoma, but
No, that is very Oklahoma. But the thing that I'm talking about is the Oklahoma fried onion burger.
okay.
And we have a story. I believe it'll be running Thursday or Friday. It's come to the attention of the New York Times, and they have a columnist whose name is Kinsey Lopez Alt, who one of the things that he does for the New York Times is he'll take a familiar food and find ways to make it better. Well, he wrote a story that appears in the New York Times on Wednesday, the 20th, saying that the Oklahoma onion burger is something that cannot be improved upon. It says just as it is, and it is remarkably simple. It is a ball of ground beef that you put on a very hot griddle. You cover with a ridiculous amount of onions. If you think you have too much, you probably don't have enough. You smash it all down. When the bottom gets brown, you flip it over onto the onion side. You put the bun in the and it's done in minutes. And if you've had one, they are very, very good. If you don't like onions, you're kind of out of it. El Reno in Western Oklahoma is kind of the epicenter. That was where this started back in the Depression as a way to stretch out the beef they were serving at a diner called, it was called the Hamburger Inn. And now there's like 4 or 5 places in Reno that's what they specialize in. It's not quite under that name. It's not quite as can found easily here, although any burger joint in town worth its salt, if you ask, they'll fry onions into the patty, but it's not quite the same because they don't use the I mean, it's like a whole onion sliced up very, very thin and put down on top of the burger. So we have a story about that coming up. And if you like burgers, we also have a review this week of, if you don't like burgers, I'll put it that way, our review this week is of Red Light Chicken. It's a new place in downtown, took over the old El Guapo place. Spicy and regular, bone-in and boneless. If you want chicken, they got chicken. If you don't want chicken, they got chicken. It's worth checking out, and that'll be in the Wednesday paper. What else? Anything else before we try to wrap up this week?
I don't think so, except I just looked up a picture of an onion burger.
Yeah.
That's so many onions.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
way more than I expected.
Yeah. That's why I said if you think you have too much, you probably don't have enough. So
Yeah.
Are we talking about onions on top or onions fried into the burger?
onions on top. They put the onions on top and mash them down with the burger, and then they flip the whole thing over so the onions end up on the bottom. So you've got them where they're around the edges, they get almost burned, they get caramelized, and they get kind of steamed. You get like 3 or 4 different onion textures. But if you do it at home, they recommend open all the windows and turn on all the fans, because the smell of onions permeates everything as you cook these. So best to do them outdoors or make a trip to El Reno if nothing else.
Would I be allowed to put Heinz 57 on that thing and just eat it that way?
I don't know if they would look askance at you to do that, but
Okay.
I know you're a fellow who lives on the edge, so I'd say go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that wraps up our little bit for this week. On behalf of my colleagues Jimmie Tramel and Grace Wood, we thank you for spending some time with us, and we will gladly see you later.
Bye.
Behave.